Chicago, early 1984, a city that never stops moving while, behind courthouse doors, justice is quietly being priced like a service. Cold dawn. This wasn't one crooked deal. It was an ecosystem. Judges, clerks, brokers, and fixers, each one a link in a routine, profitable chain. Quiet network. The FBI didn't chase whispers. They chased proof recordings, wiretaps, and patient surveillance that turned casual talk into evidence. Hard proof. The 15th of March, 1984. In a Chicago federal courtroom, a jury convicts a key bagman because the bribes weren't rumors anymore. They were on tape. Jury hears. The verdict had a name. Attorney Harold J. Kahn. Not the biggest figure, just the first crack that proved the whole structure could break. First crack. In this world, corruption wasn't dramatic. It was routine small talks, quick favors, and the unspoken assumption that everything had a price, everyday price. Between the courtroom and the street sat the brokers' middlemen who translated cash into outcomes and outcomes into silence. Silent trade. Greylord worked because the FBI played the long game, watching, waiting, and letting the network reveal itself one conversation at a time. Long patience. Every system has a weak point. In Greylord, it was an insider, someone who knew the rituals, the language, and the safest doors to open. Inside access. To catch real corruption, they built controlled scenarios, fake cases designed to tempt the network into doing what it always did. Controlled bait. The weapon wasn't a gun. It was a microphone small enough to disappear, loud enough to capture the truth in full detail. Hidden mic. The strangest part? They talked about bribes like errands. Casual, ordinary, and that casualness made the recordings lethal in court. Deadly normal. Corruption doesn't happen in the open. It lives behind doors like this, quiet rooms where a decision can change hands without anyone seeing it. Closed doors. Money rarely went straight to the top. It moved through runners' human pipelines who made bribes feel like normal paperwork. Cash pipeline. A network survives on small favors, a call here, a nudge there, and suddenly, the courtroom outcome is shaped long before anyone stands before the judge. Early pressure. Greylord wasn't about catching one bribe. It was about proving a pattern so consistent, so connected, it could only be a system pattern. They rarely said bribe. They used code a favor, a thank you, take care of. In a language designed to sound harmless. Coded favors. Cash is quiet. It doesn't leave a digital trail, just a texture, a smell, and the confidence that nobody will ever ask questions. Paper sent. In court, power can look like a simple signature. One line of ink and someone goes free. Someone pays. Someone disappears into the system. Ink. Power. Night after night, agents listened, capturing the sound of a machine running smoothly and saving every second for the day it would collapse. Night listening. In a courthouse, time feels official, measured, controlled. Greylord proved that behind the schedule, deals were happening off the record, off record. No shouting, no threats, just a quiet exchange so normal it could pass as routine unless you knew what to listen for. Quiet swap. Somewhere, every crooked system keeps score. Who paid, who delivered, who's owed. A ledger doesn't need words when everyone knows the rules. Kept score. Greylord turned trust into a trap. The more comfortable they felt, the more they talked, and the more the tapes quietly tightened around them. Trust. Trap. A lot of corruption begins the same way. A phone call that sounds ordinary until you realize it's scheduling a verdict. Dialed verdict. Outside the courtroom, pressure does the work. A quiet suggestion, a promise, a warning delivered where no one is recording. Soft threat. Power attracts people like gravity. Around certain judges, an orbit forms helpers, messengers, and those who know how to ask for special treatment. Judge orbit. In the end, the most powerful thing wasn't testimony. It was sound captured, sealed, cataloged, and waiting for a jury to hear it. Sealed sound. They didn't whisper like criminals. They joked. They sipped coffee. They talked like coworkers while arranging things that could ruin lives. Coffee jokes. One click. That's all it takes, turning a private conversation into a permanent record. Single click. The smartest corruption hides in plain sight, inside crowds, inside noise, inside moments that look like nothing at all. Plain sight. Greylord wasn't one dramatic bust. It was a case built brick by brick, until the weight of evidence became impossible to ignore. Brick, weight. A courtroom can feel like certainty, wood, rules, procedure. But Greylord exposed what happens when procedure becomes a cover for profit. Ritual cover. The danger is normalization. When everyone knows how things work, corruption stops feeling illegal and starts feeling like policy, normalized wrong. Big systems don't use the front entrance. They use side doors, quiet corridors, where favors move faster than paperwork. Side corridors. In Greylord, the most important witness sometimes wasn't a person. It was a device sitting between them, recording everything they forgot to fear. Silent witness. In an ecosystem like this, there's a price list nobody prints because everyone already knows it. Unspoken rates. Sometimes the bribe wasn't for freedom. It was for time continuances, delays, and a schedule that could be bent like wire. Bought time. One favor becomes a habit. A habit becomes a network. And soon, the entire building moves to a rhythm that isn't written anywhere. Hidden rhythm. Over months, the FBI built a library of sound, hundreds of small moments that together told one clear story. Sound archive. Every operation needs a setup: who talks to whom, what bait to use, and how to capture the moment the system shows its true face. Careful setup. The most dangerous sign is confidence. When a person believes the system protects them, they stop watching their words. False safety. In a clean system, files move by procedure. In a corrupt one, they move by influence, quietly, efficiently, and without questions. Moved files. Investigators weren't just listening for words. They were listening for the tell. The moment a casual sentence becomes a transaction. Listening, tell. What made Greylord so powerful was the tone. They spoke about corruption like it was routine, like ordering lunch. Casual tone. Every network has handoff points, places that feel anonymous, where money can move without a paper trail. Anonymous handoff. This wasn't one villain. It was roles. Judge, broker, lawyer, officer, each doing a small part that made the whole machine work. Shared roles. The case turns the instant someone says the quiet part out loud. On tape, a favor becomes a fact. Spoken truth. In Greylord, the courthouse wasn't just a building. It functioned like a marketplace where outcomes could be negotiated like commodities. Market justice. You can feel a bribe without opening it. A certain weight, a certain shape, a familiar certainty. Felt weight. Corruption often wears a friendly face. The smile is part of the deal because fear draws attention, but comfort invites disclosure. Friendly mask. Some cases are built on grand confessions. Greylord was built on shoebox evidence, ordinary tapes that captured extraordinary crimes. Shoebox tapes. A trap like this needs patience. You don't rush a network. You let it keep doing what it's done. For years. Steady patience. Ecosystems feed themselves. Each successful payoff teaches the next person. This is how things work. Self-feeding. The risk wasn't the money. The risk was talking, because once it's recorded, a casual sentence becomes a criminal timeline. Talking risk. One conviction triggers a chain reaction. One taped deal points to another until the system can't hide behind just one bad apple. Domino effect. In public, court is theater rules, rituals, certainty. Greylord showed what happens when the real script is written somewhere else. Public theater. The broker's job is to make it feel safe, like nothing illegal is happening, just helping people navigate the system. Safe feeling. Sometimes corruption is a pause, a moment where a decision could go either way until the invisible agreement tips the scale. Tipped scale. In investigations, you listen twice, first to catch the words, then to hear the confidence behind them. Second, listen. An informant's courage isn't loud. It's measured in steps, walking into a room where everyone thinks the rules don't apply. Quiet courage. Not every crime needs a dark alley. Sometimes it needs an office, a lamp, and a closed curtain. Drawn curtains. When corruption feels guaranteed, people get careless. They call it a sure thing and forget that certainty can be recorded. Sure thing. In court, a tape can testify without emotion. It doesn't forget. It doesn't flinch. It just plays. Emotionless playback. A jury can doubt a witness, but it's hard to doubt a voice calmly explaining a bribe like it's a normal appointment. Hard doubt. When the tape plays, the room changes. Confidence turns into stillness because there's nowhere left to argue with sound. Room shifts. A conviction doesn't just hit one person. It sends a signal through the network. Someone is listening, and the old safety is gone. Network signal. Paper can be destroyed, but audio is stubborn. Once words exist on tape, they survive every attempt to rewrite the story. Stubborn audio. Convicting Harold Kahn was the first domino. Not the end, just the beginning of the fall. First domino. After the tape surfaced, the phones got quieter. People still talked, just not as freely, not as casually. Quiet phones. Nothing looked different. Same suits, same hallways. But fear had entered the routine, and fear changes everything. Routine fear. The more they tried to stay quiet, the more the evidence connected. The web didn't loosen, it tightened. Web tightens. Greylord didn't just expose individuals, it exposed a machine, one that could run for years if nobody forced it into the light. Machine exposed. When justice is for sale, the real damage is trust. People stop believing the court is a place where truth matters. Broken trust. The tapes mattered because they didn't argue, they didn't negotiate, they simply replayed the world as it really was. Truth replayed. This is the lesson of Greylord. Corruption isn't always an exception. Sometimes it's an ecosystem, and ecosystems take patience to dismantle. Patient dismantling. If corruption is an ecosystem, Greylord captured its sound, the everyday rhythm of people treating justice like a transaction. Everyday rhythm. The moment a system realizes it's being recorded, it changes. The old comfort disappears. The shadows feel thinner. Thinning shadows. People forget what they said. Institutions deny what they did. But a courtroom remembers. When evidence is strong enough to speak, court remembers. The 15th of March 1984 became a line in Chicago's history. A day the system learned that even casual corruption can be caught on tape. History line. The tapes didn't just capture crimes. They captured culture, the way corruption sounded normal inside a building built for justice. Captured culture. Once you connect the dots, it stops being gossip and becomes architecture, a structure designed to move money and move outcomes. Visible architecture. They like to say it was one bad apple. Greylord showed something else. A barrel that had been designed to rot quietly. Rotted barrel. This isn't just Chicago. Any place can grow an ecosystem like this if nobody audits the routine and nobody records the truth. Any city. The scariest crimes don't always look scary. Sometimes they happen in ordinary places, during ordinary minutes. Ordinary minutes. Routine is what protected them, and routine is what betrayed them, because the same habits repeat, and recordings love repetition. Loved repetition. A verdict is more than a moment. It echoes through careers, through friendships, through every quiet deal that suddenly feels dangerous. Echoing verdict. Even decades later, Greylord's lesson is simple. Systems can lie, but a tape just plays. Tape plays. The 15th of March, 1984, wasn't just a date. It was a moment sealed in sound, when an ordinary conversation became a conviction. Sealed moment. Greylord proves this. Corruption survives on comfort, but once it's recorded, comfort turns into evidence and the ecosystem starts to collapse. Ecosystem collapses.